Well, how do, folks? Hope everybody's doing well. I had to send the girls out. I have two boxers. I had to ask my wife to help me because Bailey would try to make her way up these steps, try to get in this room with me. And you'd be sniffing, or she'd be sniffing around the door, rather, trying to get in here with me and crying. So, apologize for the minute or so tardiness. But anyway, I don't think this is going to go too long, but I was going to do a thread on Twitter. I was like, yeah, I just like talking. And I sat pretty much in one place all day today, working with my son, trying to coach him along, encourage him, and try to help him get beyond the concerns that he has. But if you're new to following me, if you're new to what it is I do and how I teach and what I'm presently working with, I have a son that just graduated homeschool. He's 18, freshly minted as a young man. And he is trying very hard to overcome the things I was trying to prevent him from forming. And it's many of the things I tell you all in the very boring parts of the videos or the majority of the Twitter spaces. It's like mindset and psychology and the things that you don't realize are going to be impactful, the things that are going to be detrimental. There's going to be the things that make it or break it for you. And many times we like to think that the markets will yield its bounty to us simply because we have a specific indicator or approach to looking at the markets, or we follow somebody that's really hot at the moment. And then when you step out there and you're in that arena and you don't have any real protection except for risk management and your self-control. My son tried very hard to do what he thought was very equivalent to a video game. Try to get in there, try to do, if my count is correct, based on what he was using, he tried 7 times to pass a top step combine. And he wasn't trying to adhere to any of the things I outlined for him, which is very frustrating. But I guess you're gonna do these things, especially as young men. You're gonna rush into it, and he wants to be able to show me that I can do it, Dad. Watch, I'll do it my way, and his way didn't work. So we sat down over the weekend, and I told him, I said, listen, are you ready to really sit down and do this the right way? It's going to be boring, and you want it to be boring. His number one concern is he's afraid now to push the button to get in. And I said, well, you're in good company, because that's exactly how it was for me. I was very, very scared to get into it in the beginning. In 1992, I had no idea what the hell I was doing, but I was really inspired to learn. But the approaches to learning how to trade and how to time an entry, if you really look at all the books and manuscripts and things that were taught back then, they really just glossed over it. It was very vague. I mean, they might show you things in a book, like this is what it looks like, but that's the benefit of hindsight. And it's very difficult to try to communicate that in a static picture. And that's why it's important for you as a student to tape read and watch price and get a feel for what it's doing. When you feel this unction in you that it's going to move higher or it's going to move lower, and then you watch it sit still for another 20 minutes before it does the opposite what you expected. That's a learning experience. It's easy to think that you've learned something from me or someone else, or use some kind of automated, you know, I don't know what you would call it, something that would be not discretionary. And it still doesn't take away that hard right edge, that void, that abyss that we look into on the right side of the chart that hasn't printed yet. See, what divides the success stories from the failures is the comfort of embracing that uncertainty. And in the beginning, I was trying very hard to know everything and always know when I would avoid taking a loss. So I know what it's like for you as my students to want to ask me in a lot of different varying ways, but really the blunt question you want to know is, how can I trade, make money, and not lose? And as much as you may want to argue and say, no, that's not how I think, or that's not what I'm asking, you are asking that. That's exactly what everybody wants that. I would be lying if I said I didn't want it. So don't lie to me, okay? Don't lie to me, because I know I would love to know how to never take a loss. I would love to know that. But you have to be comfortable with choosing these conditions that are more apt to be correct for your model and your personal approach to trading. And that means you're going to have to submit to the idea that your model, with those parameters and filters in place, may not present the opportunity for you today or that trading session. And it doesn't mean it's a bad model. It doesn't mean you're a bad trader. It doesn't mean anything except for you're waiting for your model and all of the things and circumstances that go around trusting that setup with that model, with you as the driver, the operator in that system. So naturally, as a young man, you know, I thought he was paying for these Top Step funded account challenges on his own, but he wasn't. It was actually his older brother Caleb that was allowing him to purchase them, but he was the one that was doing it. So I told him, I said, you're going to have to do in the future, anything that you do it on your own. You have a job, and that money that you earn, you spend that, because then you're going to care more about it. If you don't put anything into it, you're not going to have that same level of concern about whether or not you're going to succeed or not. And I think that's the number one reason why most people that go to college and their parents pay for their college for them, they abuse it. They don't really take it, full advantage of what's been given to them, because it's a silver spoon gift. And I had friends I grew up with that were like that, and they never amounted to anything that they went to school for, and they don't live well. So I'm not saying that's the end result of that circumstance for those individuals that have that, but I'm not surprised when it ends up that way. So I make my children work because I want them to know what it's like to have a master, someone that tells them you can and can't. This is how much you'll get if you do what I tell you to do. If you don't do what I tell you to do, you will be reprimanded. You want to take evasion, it'll have to be approved first. And work with people that they don't like, and then develop these tendencies to want to impress them even though they don't like them. It's really crucial to have that, because once you do it and you grow a disdain for it, it will be the motivating factor that keeps your ass in the charts, so that way you don't stay there. It'd be very easy for me to say, here, Cameron, here's $1 million. Here, I'm going to go out here and get you a house. You already got a car. I'm going to give you some money in an account to live off of, so that way you don't feel a rush to get in there and trade. But he's not equipped. He's not equipped to do anything with that. So I've tried to do those things early on with my older kids, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's the equivalent of, here, honey, I'm daddy. I'm going to pay for your college. Impress daddy. No, they're going to be kids. They're going to be reckless, and they're going to do things half-assed, and they're not going to care because they know daddy's going to take care of them. So the only way I could kind of like cancel that whole mindset And I'm probably not going to be successful on all of my kids with this. Okay. But that at least is what I'm trying to do. Because I don't have a book or someone that's come before me and did it this way and it worked for them or didn't work for them. It was a brainchild that I came up with, and this is what it is. But making them work is not a bad thing. It's something good. All of us had to do it. I had to do it. I had to work. I had multiple jobs. Some of you might have multiple jobs right now too, and you're trying to learn how to do this, and it's hard. It's really, really hard. It's hard to stay motivated because you're in debt and you're trying to keep up with the bills that you're accumulating, and everything's more expensive. See, he's protected in a way that maybe you as an adult with maybe siblings, or not siblings, but children, that you have to take care of. Maybe you have a one income family and you're supporting all that stuff. And they expect you when you come home from work to give them your undivided attention. But here you are listening to me and watching videos by me, and you're trying to look at charts and stuff. And they're looking at you like, why are you doing this? I get it. I had to do the whole thing too. But it's hard to keep the real life from pressing in and overtaking your pursuits. It's easy for it to be trampled down if you allow other people, your loved ones, your family members, to prevent you from putting in the time that's necessary to do this. It just makes it harder than it has to be. So I don't have all the answers for all that stuff. So I want to talk to you today about how my son, Cameron, is going through this, in my mind, the proper way of doing it. I am met with these teenage antics still. He wants to know the easiest short path to it. And I told him, I said, what you're really feeling now is because you tried to do this on your own without using anything I taught. You weren't willing to sit down and watch the videos. You weren't willing to do this practice of just looking at price and don't do anything. You were in a hurry to push the button. So this is exactly what I teach all of you. Don't be in a hurry to go out there and try to make money, because you're going to be doing so by pushing the button with ignorance. You're not going to know what you're doing. So what you're going to be teaching yourself and conditioning yourself is that because you know nothing and you have no experience to lean on, when you're pressing the button, you're the equivalent of going to casinos and gambling, where there's no way of knowing the outcome. There's no probability. There's no statistical edge there. It's pure gambling. And you're hoping for some kind of a lottery win to inspire you to do it the right way, when that wouldn't happen anyway. Because if you were to make money doing something on a whim, you're going to think that you're just lucky. So why bother going through all those videos and going through the process of back testing and journaling? Who needs all that stuff? All I got to do is get lucky once in a while. Over leverage and don't use a stop loss. And that's what he did. And he would blow it and go right in there and reset it again, reset it again, reset it again, 7 times. And then finally, he got to the point where he just didn't want to do it anymore. And quietness, walking around the house, not trying to say anything to me. And I told my wife, I said, I'm not going to bring it up, but I want to see how long he'll go without saying anything about it. And it wasn't until his girlfriend mentioned it. And I was like, okay, the ice is broken now. What are we going to do with this? Because clearly, where you're working, that isn't going to cut it. I don't think it's appropriate for you to have that type of mindset where what you're doing is it's normal for a teenager. While you're in school, he was homeschooled. You go to a coffee shop and you're working there. You're making $400 a week. Wonderful, $400 a week for a 17-year-old. It's spending money. I make him pay the car insurance for his car, and he buys his own gas. If he goes out and entertains his girlfriend, he must do that out of his own pocket. Everything else, I clothe him. I make sure everything that he needs as a member of our family, he has it at his disposal. But I make him work for the things that he has to spend for. So I'm not going to put money in his pocket to be a sugar daddy to his girlfriend. So all these things are meant to inspire him to be independent. That necessity for him he has to make it on his own. Well, he sat down with me today, and we were looking at the markets. And I explained to him, I said, we're on the heels of the holiday, so the expectation is going to be rather light. Don't expect a whole lot of things to make a lot of sense. And he's like, well, I don't know really what I'm looking for anyway. And I said, well, we're watching price, and I want you to tell me when you think it's going to go higher, or where you think it's going to go lower. And I want you to push the button right in front of me. I don't want you to second guess it. I want you to, in your mind, know what it is that you think you expect. Not that you believe it's going to happen and you're not going to be right or wrong. It's what you feel, the impulsiveness inside you. What is telling you it's going to go higher or what's going to go lower? As soon as you push the button and you put a stop loss in there, I want to know where you think it's going and explain to me why you just did that. And we did this morning all throughout the lunch hour and into the afternoon. And a couple of the things that he did, obviously were way off. There was no reason for him to have done it. But I'm teaching him how to overcome fear of entering because he's afraid to do that. Now, sitting next to me, with me next to him, he didn't seem to have all that much of a uncertainty. He just, he was looking at it like it's a video game. Like I'm watching him play a video game because he could just re-up. In his mind, that's the mentality he had. I got dad next to me. If anything happens, I can do whatever I got to do to fix it. And I did it twice today. But his first trade, he got out and he went in, he went long, and he got $244 in the equivalence of the movement. And I said to him, now think about this, son. If you make $400 a week average after taxes working your job, that's not a lot of money, but you just did $244 in one trade in less than 5 minutes. But you have to work all week and then wait till the following pay period to get that same $400 net pay. Which one makes sense? Because, well, if I could do this just once a day, I said that's the right mindset. Now, did you get 5 points in that move? No. Did you go into that move with I have to get a big gigantic run for the whole day? No. You went in and you were looking for movement. You're expecting volatility. So the way you overcome the fear of getting into the marketplace is you have to, number one, desensitize yourself. That's the only thing I had to do for myself was I had to go in and press the button. I simply had to do it. And I did it with live money, which is the worst thing in the world to do because I didn't know if I was going to be right or wrong. And I was gambling with money I couldn't afford it. Like I was borrowing it against a credit card. Yeah, how about that?